Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session on revolutionizing course materials delivery with Equitable Access. I'm Andrew Alfers. I'm a Vice President of Product Management at VitalSource. And I'm pleased to be joined today by two of our partners at University of California, Davis stores, both Jason Lorgan and Aaron Ochoa. And Jason and Aaron will walk you through the Equitable Access program and how we're partnering together to really make a difference on the UC Davis campus. So with that, I'll pass it over to Jason.
Thank you very much. Aaron, I think you're up, aren't you?
Oh, sorry.
Yep, I'm the first one on the slides. Thank you, everybody. So again, my name is Aaron Ochoa. I serve as the director of the UC Davis stores, and thank you for having us today. First slide that we have up right now is kind of our motto here: increasing access and reducing equity. That is the goal. That is what we're trying to achieve here, and that is what Equitable Access is all about. The second slide has to do with how do we incorporate that with what the broader communication is and what the broader vision of the campus is all about, is taking Boldly Go and moving it forward. So one of the things that's part of our Boldly Go strategy is to embrace diversity, practice inclusion, excellence, and strive for equity. So that has come straight out of the Chancellor's strategic plan. And that is what we're trying to accomplish here. This part, the reducing equity among students by eliminating textbook access issues while ensuring the costs are predictable and equal for all undergraduates, that's our mission statement. And where does all this come from? Really, this kind of comes from a conversation that we had with an employee of ours. And so as we were thinking about what the next steps of the course materials kind of revolution was, we started thinking about, well, what is the student experience? So we had a gentleman by the name of Carlo, who was a student employee of ours first, and then moved over into a full-time employee, and has since moved on to bigger and better things in his life. But this is his story, and this really kind of hits the point of what Equitable Access is about. So Carlo was what you would expect in that he hit all those markers. He was a first-year, low income, came from a single parent family home, and made it to UC Davis. He did everything right. He got here. So his parents or his mom was so excited that he was able to get here and be that first student to go off to college. So when he came to UC Davis, they moved him into the dorms. They did all the things that parents do with their kids when they're there. Got him set up, got everything going. Well, the day before she left, or the day that she left, they were walking over to the bookstore, and she said, "I know books are extremely expensive. So I've saved up a year for you as much as I could so that you can get your books." And she handed him an envelope. She gave him his kiss, she gave him a hug, and she went about her way. He came into the bookstore, he went downstairs to where our textbooks were, and Carlo was aspiring to be an aeronautical engineer. That was his goal. So he went over, asked the folks on the textbook floor where the engineering department was, walked over, started looking at the books, opened up his envelope and realized he had $100. His mom had saved everything she could for him, and it was $100. He looked at the first book of his course that he had, and it was $230. It didn't pay for half of one book. He didn't know what to do. Again, he's first year, never had anybody else that can help him, never, that can explain these things to him. So he did what he thought was right. He started walking around the textbook floor, looking at prices of books, and he found that political science, he could afford those books. So Carlo went and changed his major, changed all of his courses, and now has a degree in political science from UC Davis, not aeronautical engineering. No student should have to be able to change their dream because they can't buy their textbooks or they can't afford their textbooks. So that's what Equitable Access is about, making sure that students can do what they want to do, not what they can afford to do. Jason?
Thank you, Aaron. So when we started developing this program, one of the things we realized that at their core, textbooks are intellectual property. So as this program was developed, we looked for inspiration from other forms of intellectual property, such as music and movies. And so if you look at the image on the left of this slide, that kind of represents how I purchased music when I was a college student in the late 1980s. That's what a record store looks like. And if you look at the phone image next to that, that is how pretty much today's college students access their music. They do it through a subscription service, and it's a digital download. So then if you look to the right of this slide and you see the brands at the top of the screen, we realized that our college store and most college stores were using the model that was employed for many years by Tower Records, Blockbuster, and Borders, meaning that those companies either rented or sold physical products at individual prices. And so we realized that, as you can tell from those brand names, that they're a bit dated. You don't really see those around anymore. So we aspired to be like the intellectual property distribution that exists today with Spotify, Netflix, Apple Music, and Hulu, which is distributing intellectual property through a digital download, a digital product at a flat rate subscription. And so that's sort of was our inspiration for Equitable Access. Is no matter how many, if you think of music or movies, no matter how much music or movies you consume, the price is the same, whether you consume one movie or 15 movies. And so we wanted to move textbooks into that same successful models that consumers have embraced. So now students pay the same flat rate, regardless of what courses they're in, regardless of what their major is, regardless of how many books they have, etc. Next slide. So this is a digital first program, and most of the content is delivered through our learning management system. Our campus uses Canvas. And so one of the things before we started that a lot of people said to us is, how much digital content is there available? So we will provide, digital first means we'll provide digital when there is a digital version of that content. We will only provide print when there is no digital version available. So when we measured this by the units delivered, 85% of the units that we delivered were digital and only 15% were print. So that surprised us that there was actually, the textbooks that our faculty were using were available in such a high number digitally. Next slide. So this is sort of a screenshot of sort of what it looks like within Canvas. And so you have a dashboard with the courses that you're enrolled in. And then of course, once you launch the book, that's sort of what you see on the iPad. And the intent of this screen is to sort of describe how easy this is compared to the old model. So in the old model, as many of us know who are in higher education, students add and drop courses at a very high rate at the start of the term. It's rather remarkable how many students add and drop courses at the start of the term. So in the old model, whether we're using the campus store or you were using Amazon or another online source, you would have to return your book or ship your book back to Amazon and then get the new book for the class you added. Huge hassle. With the product being digital and delivered through Canvas, when you add and drop courses, your textbooks move with you. So this has been one of the really cool features that our students have told us that they really appreciate. Next.
So what, we talked about digital, we talked about the amount, but what is the effect on our students? So prior to Equitable Access, we surveyed our students, and this was in winter of 19, so it would have been around January of 2019, prior to the pandemic. We measured the student, and about 7,000 students said that they actually had all their materials they needed before class. So that was kind of our starting point. So to give you some context, this is out of about 30,000 undergraduate students. And then after the first quarter of Equitable Access, we've made that jump from that 6,819 to 22,661 students having all of their content by day one. And that is a magnificent feat. That was the main metric in which we were kind of asked to measure our program in terms of effectiveness with students. And so that is spectacular from that perspective. I am happy to note that moving forward, we expect to see about a 10% increase annually. So hopefully we'll continue to push that level. As of right now, we're actually closer to about 18%. So that is super exciting for us. Was Equitable Access easier than shopping for your textbooks on your own? This one has been a very interesting thing for us because it kind of goes back to the whole concept that Jason was talking about earlier about convenience. We have students who live in a world or grew up in a world where they are used to instant gratification for everything that they want. They order things on Amazon, it shows up the next day. Some cases the same day. They don't have to wait months and months and months to watch videos or movies. They can just stream it. They don't have to wait for the next episode of whatever to come out. They can just wait for the period of time and then binge the whole season if they want. That is what our students are used to. And so when we look at this and we see what the benefit is in regards to making things easier, this shows that in fall of 2020, which was the first term that we had Equitable Access, 70% of our students almost were saying that it was easier. By the end, which is interesting because as time goes on, usually things drop off, at least in the historical portion of course materials. You know, your fall term is your biggest thing, and as things go, as you go, it reduces down. In this case, we had more students say that, hey, actually, this is easier because they started to utilize the program. So that is a fantastic thing for us to show. The other piece that's really, really important is if things are easier, then we're removing barriers. And that's the whole point. We were talking about access earlier, and what is the goal of this program to make sure students have access and that there's equity there. Removing those barriers is what helps us do that. Andrew?
Thanks, Aaron. Before I begin and kind of talk about how VitalSource powers the Equitable Access program for the UC Davis team, I actually had a coincidental and kind of fun story that I personally experienced this past weekend. So I live in Northern California in the Bay Area, and I was attending my son's high school fall baseball game this weekend, and it was just catching up with some parents of a teammate of his, whose daughter, Melanie, is a freshman, just started at UC Davis this fall quarter. And they were describing to me just their experience in taking her up to campus, moving her in, getting her set up for her courses. And in the course of that conversation, I asked them if they were familiar with Equitable Access. And instantaneously, they exclaimed, you know, in unison, "We love Equitable Access." Melanie chose to participate in the program, and they echoed, voluntarily, that is, echoed a lot of the points that Jason and Aaron just covered. And interestingly, as well, they also shared from Melanie's perspective what it was about the program that she really valued. And essentially it boiled down to the ability for her to access her materials at her fingertips, whether she was on campus or off campus with a device in reach, was incredibly convenient for her and really facilitated her being able to learn on her schedule and when she, sort of on demand when she needed to. And so that was just a really cool, timely, and coincidental just sort of experience to have right before, days before we were going to do this presentation. And it was really validating to hear a personal account of how the program has really resonated with members of the community. And so with that, how is VitalSource partnering with the Davis team? Effectively, we do the following. We use technology that we've developed to match information that we source from a variety of systems on campus. So those that help us understand what content is being used by instructors in courses. And that information comes from the student information system, from a faculty workflow tool that the store uses to collect content adoptions that instructors are communicating that they're going to use in upcoming terms, as well as the retail management system used on campus. And we match that with rosters that we get from the Canvas learning management system to then present to users a personalized view of what course materials they need for their classes in the given term. That personalized view enables immediate access to the digital course materials that Jason and Aaron described. And so within Canvas, within a single click, students can access the vast majority of the materials. And the materials actually range not only from textbooks that VitalSource fulfills in our own bookshelf learning application, but also materials that are hosted by publishers or content providers with their own proprietary platforms, as well as digital materials that are accessible through the campus library. If you advance the next slide, Aaron, that would be great. And so how do we do that? Well, we facilitate the access by leveraging the LTI standard that IMS supports. We've long embraced the LTI standard to facilitate direct access to textbooks that we provide through VitalSource Bookshelf and in our courseware environment, which is acrobatic. But also we facilitate access to publisher provided and publisher hosted courseware materials, also leveraging LTI. And so through the experience that is depicted there on screen, which is the personalized view of content, an example of the personalized view of content that I mentioned a moment ago, students in every course that is published on Canvas have the ability to, within a few clicks, go from their course right into any of the course materials that they need for that specific course or other courses that they're enrolled in. And so it's a really convenient way for students to be able to get to the materials that they need. And if you advance on further, Aaron, one of the other things that's also important is that like many institutions, instructors on campus are empowered to make a lot of decisions on how they facilitate their courses. And there are some instructors who opt not to publish their courses in Canvas or use Canvas as a means to facilitate the learning on campus. Even still, we enable students who get content through the Equitable Access program and who happen to be enrolled in the course where the instructor is not publishing their course in Canvas to still access their textbooks through what we call a global placement of an LTI link within Canvas, specifically within the user's account drawer as depicted in this screen. And so really, we're trying to work with the team and to help students be able to access their materials in multiple pathways so that they can have the experience that Melanie described to her parents and they related to me that is so valuable for students there at Daivs.
And I got a couple of things to add, and if anybody has any questions, now would be a great time to put them in the chat. So one of the things that I wanted to mention that we often get questions about what actually gets access. So we talked about the traditional textbook in a digital format, right? But a lot of people use open educational resources. And so we wanted to make sure that both OER and library content was also accessible through the system. And so because this works kind of like an insurance pool where all students are pooled together, anytime OER is included in the program, the future cost for the subscription could potentially go down because we measure the cost of the overall program, and that's the same thing with the library. So every time we get a textbook adoption, we actually work with the library to see if they already own a digital license for multiple users that we can then link through the LMS, because basically in the past, the library and the bookstore may have been purchasing the same content for the same group of students without really being aware that the other one was doing so. And so now we're able to save that money and then pass that savings along to students in future terms. So the inclusion of OER is very important to this program as well. Academic freedom is maintained. Whatever a faculty member chooses, we will provide through the program.
And I'd like to add a couple of things in regards to the content itself and what kind of content is delivered and some of the benefits that are provided from our academic technologies standpoint. As we work more and more with this, there's student data going back and forth. So there is a student data security concern whenever student information is leaving campus. And so when you have your LTIs with one vendor, so in this case, VitalSource, where they are actually delivering the content for all these other publishers, then really you have only one source that you have to go ahead and monitor, and it has to go through the process in which you ensure that they are keeping all that data secure. As opposed to when you have multiple vendors, so you have multiple publishers who are delivering content, then every single publisher has to go through this process where they have to go through and do a vendor risk assessment and ensuring that they are providing the correct information and make sure that they are not doing anything illegal with that information that they're receiving. So a benefit from our campus that they're seeing on the technology side is that, hey, this is only one tool we have to deal with, as opposed to 50, 60, 70 different tools that are out there and putting that into the LMS. So there are some other benefits, not just to students and to the stores and to everybody. There is benefit to the IT world in that they are being able to streamline that process. And so there's a lot of other items that kind of fall within this realm that are very, very important and that we would love to hear more and more from you all about.
Aaron, this is Mark Luba. I'm monitoring the Q&A and the chat, and we have no questions at this point.
Great. Well, we certainly encourage all of you who are listening to reach out to the UC Davis team or to us at VitalSource to learn more about the program. One of the things that we're both very proud of is that this program and our collaboration together received an IMS Learning Impact Award for this year. And we as Jason and Aaron described, the learning impact is truly meaningful and evidence on the Davis campus. And we're encouraged by not only our collaboration in terms of impacting students and learning the way it is, but also the growth of the program continues. And so we really encourage any of you who want to learn more, both in terms of the technology and how it's facilitated from VitalSource, or from how the program is managed and run to such a successful way by the Davis team, to reach out and contact us, and we're happy to provide you with insights we can.
Great, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.